The Galactic Consortium possessed an unforgiving superiority complex, refined over 12,000 years of interspecies collaboration. If you define collaboration loosely enough to include the thinly veiled dominance of the elder races, then yes, it was technically accurate. While Earth's dominant species was still debating whether fire was a neat party trick, the consortium had already discovered that it was faster than mild travel. The inclusion of humans in this ancient circle of evolved beings. Some believed it was a clerical error, others, a calculated risk. The more honest members of the galactic community refer to that pivotal moment when Administrator Zilvich became remarkably inebriated on fermented Terran apple juice, approved for diplomatic consumption just 3 centuries ago. Humans called it what it was, their big break. The pride and joy of the consortium was the Interstellar Defense Academy, a gleaming monument to cooperative military excellence. It was where the most talented tactical minds from 237 species were trained to protect galactic civilization from internal and external threats. High above Nexus Prime, the Academy's architecture appeared both intentionally menacing and unintentionally very phallic from most angles, a fact human cadets found endlessly hilarious, though they rarely said so out loud. Admission rates hovered at a brutal 3%, statistically harder than surviving space without a suit. And yet, humans kept entering, not many, but enough to be considered bothersome and physiologically confusing. The medical teams were concerned about their redundant organs. The combat instructors fixated on their fragile skeletons. And the psychological profilers? They watched with growing alarm. Despite everything, humans remained cheery, enduring things that, by all biological standards, should have killed them outright. Consortium scientists produced elaborate theories about human endurance, ranging from statistical anomalies to full-blown metaphysical paradoxes. But the truth? The truth was far simpler and immune to analysis. It all began with an instructor trading places with a 16-limbed student, only to watch in horror as a human cadet outmaneuvered them on foot. One Riel 9 tactical savant claimed humanity, lacked the reflexes for advanced combat. 3 human cadets disproved him by breaking multiple bones and several long-standing records. The next day, the directorate declared that human visual processing was too primitive for precision targeting. Just before a human wearing corrective, lenses outperformed every species in her division. Grudgingly, the Academy began to adapt. Some claimed it was progress, others suspected mildew. Humans were accepted, sometimes admired, but never, ever fully understood, which suited the humans just fine. Being underestimated was practically a tactical advantage. The consortium was about to be reminded, painfully, that assuming anything about humans was a mistake. It would take exactly 23 seconds of confusion, and one cadet, First Class H-42J, or Jaime, to shift galactic politics for years to come. Jaime held the rare distinction of being entirely unremarkable. In a species already seen as cosmic participation trophy winners, she was the most average of the average. Height, 172 cm. Weight, 68 kilos. Just enough muscular density to make Avon Pelosi cadets giggle and Droven crystal beaks shake in quiet pity. Academically, she was rated adequately competent. A label so uninspired it was practically an insult. Her ID badge had global symbolism, 3 languages, and 0 accolades. To xenobiologists, she was the model human female, meaning not as interesting as unbuttered toast. But what they couldn't detect was her unmatched capacity for sarcasm and spite. 2 human traits the consortium had yet to catalog properly, probably because they bordered on psychological warfare. She sat in her quarters, her gelatinous Melbari roommate flickering with concern. The crimson on your face suggests either shame or anger, the Melbari said, glowing cautiously. Which is it? Neither, Jaime smiled. I'm just thinking about tomorrow's tactics class. The Melbari shimmered in disbelief. Your species' inability to suppress autonomic reactions sounds evolutionarily flawed. Jaime didn't bother correcting him. She was already counting down the days until graduation. The consortium knew many things, but not the depths of human resolve. They mistook sleep for weakness, emotion for instability, and attachment for a liability. They didn't realize that humanity's inexplicable loyalty to robots, pets, and strangers was the very thing that made them indestructible. That night, as she lay beneath the cold ceiling of her quarters, Jaime strategized. Tomorrow's challenge was advanced simulation training. The euphemism of the day, extreme environmental adversity. Translation: fight through neutron star gravity wells, toxic air, and randomly generated nightmares. Just another Tuesday in humanity's endless galactic audition. Senior Instructor Vreor's 4 eyes blinked rhythmically as he scanned the cadets. Rexnor, the scaled, smug Hashari combat tactician, shimmered under the simulation lights. He had risen through the ranks by stealing credit and mocking human cadets. Today, he was watching. He reminded them that the simulation would adjust to species-specific performance. Translation: if it senses you're weak, it might let you live. Jaime stood among 23 cadets from 17 different species, centered perfectly in Rexner's line of sight. No accident. Cadet H-42J, Rexner rasped. You demonstrated evacuation technique for Class 7 gravitational anomalies. Yes, sir, Jaime replied. Human training is limited to Class 5. Are you questioning the simulation's design? No, sir. You may invoke Article 12 and withdraw, citing biological inferiority. Translation: surrender and be expelled. No human has ever opted out early, sir, Jaime said calmly. I'm ready. The cell door hissed shut, almost laughing. Today's performance was being monitored by the consortium's evaluation board. Top cadets could earn positions aboard Vanguard-class vessels. No human had ever been considered. Until now. Cadet H-42J, Rexner called. You've been reassigned. Pod 23. A malfunctioning pod, closest to the core gravity generator. It had a history of human casualties. Understood, sir, Jaime said. Any other parameters? Just one, Rexner smirked. Try not to die too fast. It messes with the data. Inside, Pod 23 hummed with restrained energy. Holographic walls shimmered. The gravity generator rumbled, then came the countdown. 3, 2, 1. The weight hit her, 3 times normal gravity, then 4, then 6. Her dampener was missing. Outside the pod, Rexner watched. 3 eyes on Jaime, 1 on the console. Her vision dimmed. Blood vessels ruptured. Her ribcage strained. Sir, a Melbari instructor warned. Pod 23 is... A calibration surge, Rexner interrupted. The system will self-correct. But the system did something else. A security turret deployed. It misread Jaime's collapse as aggression. A non-lethal shot fired. Except it wasn't non-lethal. The round struck her in the chest and she crumpled backwards. Microsecond power loss was caused by quantum fluctuations that rippled through the simulation chamber systems. The backup systems ascribed this to feedback from the gravity generators at 14, 27, and 55 seconds. The human's death was already classified and placed in the cadets' thoughts as an unpleasant event, and they started to wander away. Data supporting the common knowledge of vulnerable species. At 14:27 and 57 seconds, without a command, the door mechanism of the pod triggered. An automatic security scan for unauthorized access was initiated. By input system diagnostics, Varricknor's scales bristled in a manner that indicated access at 14:27 and 58 seconds. Perplexity, mixed with a sense of worry. Delay in medical retrieval. Something was abruptly ordered at 14:27:59, and the lights within the pod flashed. The medical staff paused at the doorway after sensors picked up an electromagnetic irregularity coming from the human corpse. A complete system breakdown cascaded. At 14:28 and 0 seconds, Pod 23's emergency lighting came on, illuminating the cabin in red. Conversation stopped mid-training due to the brightness that turned the blood pool black. Even the Academy's constantly buzzing systems seemed to hold their breath as the exercises froze in suspended animation. The sound of a moist, sliding, ripping sounds was followed by an abrupt silence. It would play a significant role in the nightmares of 17 distinct species, accompanied by a sound that ranged from a gasp to a laugh. Died in 1 second. Movement found in pod 23, 14, 28, and 2 seconds. Seconds after the pod door swung open, a figure that vaguely resembled the human emerged from pod 23. Jaime, a cadet who had entered it just 5 minutes earlier, stood impossibly at the doorway. She was plainly lit by the pod's emergency lighting, her silhouette resembling something primordial, ancient blood. Her uniform glistened, wet from neck to waist, turning red in the harsh light. Her hair dripped steadily against the spotless floor, trickling from her hands. Previously flawless, it now draped around a face in black, matted threads. It appeared both completely unfamiliar and deeply familiar. But it was what she carried that transformed the space into a frozen horror. In her right hand, which seemed gripped by cabling and electronics instead of hair, dangled Vrainer's head. Not his. Biological head? No. It was the brain that operated his armor. His personal command unit, databases, communication networks, systems. The dripping, wet globe of technology sparked intermittently across exposed connections, violently removed from its container. A sizzling puddle formed as a trail of coolant. Fluid mixed with human blood and poured from broken tubes. Jaime moved fluidly, taking 1 step forward. Then another. Calm. Revealing nothing of the stress her body had just endured. The medical staff fumbled with outdated equipment, recording vital indicators that shouldn't have been possible. Breathing. Clear. Heart rate, elevated but stable. In E, a whisper. The Melbari instructor said, "Brain activity? Impossible." Jaime's eyes seemed to stroke the room, cycling quickly between distress colors. She discovered Vranor, pressed against a control panel, all 4 of his major eyes wide with what humans might call dread. "I think," Jaime replied in a voice like someone gargling gravel, "I would never admit to experiencing shock. At the same time, honey, this is yours, teacher." She hefted the dripping command unit. Though there appeared to be performance problems, she moved casually, precisely, and dropped it at his feet with a wet, final thud that echoed through the silent room. "Interesting simulation parameters," she said, running a hand over her. Blood-soaked chest where the missile had struck, the cloth parted, revealing a neatly wrapped wound, not gaping flesh. A red stain that faded. Though I thought they lacked some creativity. Maybe try a Class 8 next time. She made a low bubbling sound. The Pelosi cadet's feathers stood on end. The assembled aliens realized it was laughter. Even the typically unflappable HFY vibrated at frequencies that indicated severe suffering. Instinctively, the students pushed back against the far wall, distancing themselves from the blood-covered human. Vranor's primary vocal apparatus broke free, while his secondary mouth remained trapped in disbelief. "Didn't anyone tell you," Jaime said, "that humans have this amusing little adaptation? Shock." Her smile was all teeth. no warmth. She tapped her chest carefully, leaving a flawless crimson fingerprint over her heart. Environmental resilience. When she stepped fully into the light, the assembled Academy members finally saw the severity of her condition. Blood covered her body, yet slipped over her skin in patterns that defied gravity, collecting in symmetrical formations before dispersing. Now, calmly repairing her uniform, she said, "I think the exercise isn't finished. Shall we continue with the assessment, or would you rather document this as another equipment failure?" With astonishing speed, the Academy's emergency protocols activated. Just 23 minutes too late. Security guards and medical experts from 17 species were on standby, with apparatus tuned to everything from methane breathers to silicon-based life forms. Jaime sat quietly during the debriefing as a suit of unfeasible technology hovered at the edge of the room. The chamber, still filled with dried blood, behaved strangely. Occasional drips emerged from her flesh, hovered briefly, then vanished back into her uniform. The director's modulated voice finally spoke. "You could definitely describe what happened in Simulation Pod 23. Jaime, cadet-like in posture and..." Courtesy replied, "I was struck in the chest by a customized anti-material bullet. It should have killed me instantly. But instead, it triggered my emergency nanite deployment." The aliens exchanged puzzled looks. "You are the source?" The director's energy flushed with disbelief. "My emergency nanite deployment," Jaime repeated, as if explaining basic arithmetic to very slow children. "All human cadets are outfitted with them. Standard protocol for any species lacking adequate natural defenses." The Drovnak administrator quickly opened a regulation file citing Regulation 52991B. Approved technology may be used to enhance biological resilience for species ranked Category 3 or lower. Humans are Category 2.7, Jaime noted. The Melbari instructors shifted colors. Deep perplexity. "Human cadets have never reported technical enhancement," someone muttered. Jaime's smile was cold. "That's because our nanites are made of organic materials, designed to perfectly mimic human blood cells until activated." The realization struck the room like a shockwave. Every drop of blood, every skin cell, every minor training wound had carried hidden technology. "Where did the nanites go after fixing your chest?" asked Director Rexner, still radiating fear. "They identified the threat, your override command unit, the one that loaded live ammunition and disabled safeties." She tapped her temple. "Another adaptation you never thought to check. A knowledge database. They entered the security turret and neutralized the link to your command unit." "That's impossible," whispered a Hatari technician. "That unit was inside Rexner's armor." Jaime raised an eyebrow. "Or perhaps that's just another thing nanites can do. Manipulate matter on a quantum level. Temporarily create a path between 2 points." The director blinked, visibly stunned. "Why didn't we know about these capabilities?" Jaime's face softened, almost empathetic. "Because you never asked. You were so sure of our inferiority. You never imagined we could possess adaptations." She gestured to her blood-soaked uniform. "We don't have armor. We don't have backup organs. We aren't telepaths. We're just desperate and very good at turning weakness into strength." She leaned in, voice barely audible, still echoing, "and we have a long history of being underestimated."